If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
Welcome to Mindshock True Crime. This is your host, Bruce McGuire. And today we're going over the haunting DeOrr Kunz Jr. case. A missing child case that has baffled many law enforcement and the nation itself. I have actually not heard of this case until it was requested recently, but we will be doing a deep dive in typical Mindshock fashion with logic and reason at the forefront in an attempt to discover what exactly went down in Idaho regarding the DeOrr Kunz Jr. case and what the future for the case holds. As always, if you enjoy the Mindshock podcast, find it interesting and informative, and want to help Mindshock get more mind-shocking content out there to keep up awareness not just in this missing person's case, but in other cases, wrongful convictions, and unsolved cold cases, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube for access to exclusive streams and chats. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast requests. You could also be a guest in the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. So, just for a quick primer on the case here, we're going to start with the Idaho Statesman article, updated October 28th, 2021 by Nate Eaton, EastIdahoNews.com. DeOrr Kunz went missing 4 years ago. Family says the day will haunt the rest of our lives. DeOrr Kunz Jr. went missing July 10th while on a camping trip with his family in the Salmon Chalice National Forest. Despite extensive searches and national media attention, there's been no sign of the 3-year-old. 4 years ago today, so this article published October 28th, 2021, so we'll be coming up on 5 years in a few months. DeOrr Kunz Jr. disappeared while on a camping trip in Lemhi County. The Idaho Falls 2-year-old vanished July 10th, 2015 at the Timber Creek Campground with his parents, Jessica Mitchell and Vernal DeOrr Kunz. DeOrr's great-grandfather, Robert Walton, and Isaac Reinwand, a friend of Walton's, were also on the trip. There has been no sign of DeOrr since that day, and nobody has been charged in connection to his disappearance. Mitchell and Kunz were named as suspects in January 2016 by former Lemhi County Sheriff Lynn Bowerman, but they have never been arrested. So already we have a very curious statement here. So they're named not as POIs, not as persons of interest, according to the Idaho Statesman here, but they were actually named as suspects by the former Lemhi County Sheriff Lynn Bowerman? That's kind of weird. So they were named as actual suspects. Mitchell and Kunz. Huh. So we'll find out what's going on here. While no major developments have occurred in the case over the past year, the Lemhi County Sheriff's Office closed part of the Timber Creek Campground June 28th to July 1st for a search. Sheriff Steve Penner declined to comment about what crews did at the site, but said investigators will follow up in the area as environmental conditions change. Trina Bates Clegg, DeOrr's grandmother and Mitchell's mother, agreed to speak with EastIdahoNews.com about the anniversary of her grandson's disappearance and where the case stands today. Here's a lightly edited transcript of the interview. Nate Eaton, can you believe it's been 4 years ago this week that baby DeOrr disappeared? Trina Bates Clegg, DeOrr's grandmother. No. We go back so many things. It's like a timeline. You start thinking, okay, today's the day we were cleaning out the camper, and I just remember him being so excited helping clean out the camper and jumping on top of the cushions and little things like that before they did go. How excited he was to be part of that and go camping and live. Somewhat I remember from my childhood of going up to Leadore and camping with my grandma and grandpa. We found pictures from 1983 of that campground, and we were all up there, and that was my last time up there. It's such a beautiful place, and now it's such a haunted place to me. I still find such comfort going up there because it's so beautiful. Eaton says, it seems like a lot has happened over the last year, but yet not a lot has happened. Your father, Robert Walton, passed away, and we're sorry to hear about his death. How are you doing since he died? Clegg responds, rough, really rough. There's just been so much over the past 3 weeks. We had private investigator David Marshburn come in and do some new searches, and then my father passed away. I feel like I haven't had a chance to grieve for my father because there was so much going on, so it's still very difficult. I wanted the answers so much before Dennis Kunz died in January, and then I said, no, we'll get the answers before my dad dies. When Marshburn came in and gave us some new information, I thought we had it. It doesn't mean we don't, but I thought for sure we would know something, and then my dad passed away. I had someone close to me say, does it scare you that you may never find the answers? That was a really big reality that as a grandparent we've lost the two great-grandparents, and that was a little rough thinking I may never find the answers. That's kind of a messed up question to ask somebody like that. Eaton says, I'm sure people have asked if your father has anything to say about DeOrr before he passed. Clegg responds, no, he just kept telling Jessica that he was very, very sorry. Sorry that he took his eyes off that baby, and he just kept telling Jessica that he was so sorry. Eaton states, you mentioned David Marshburn. He's a PI from North Carolina who came to Leadore a month or two ago with his cadaver dogs. He went public and said that his dogs hit on a spot at the campground. The sheriff's office hasn't said what that hit was. It kind of gave a lot of people hope that there might finally be closure. Is that where you went when he told you this news? Okay, and let me interject here just briefly. I mean, what do most people think about this case? That it was some kind of accidental death that got covered up? I mean, what are people thinking here? Because, I don't see too many options here, but let's continue here. Clegg says, absolutely. And I'm still not giving up that hope because I know that there's more to come. I still expect to see baby DeOrr as that same 2.5-year-old little boy. It brought a lot of hope, and it still does bring a lot of hope because it's another person out there fighting for baby DeOrr. Not necessarily fighting for anybody in the family or anything like that, but someone that's out there. He promises me every day, Trina, I'm not done, we're not done. Just to have that again, and I know that Lemhi County and Bonneville County and missing and exploited children, they're all out there for the same thing. But when Get Someone comes in and they are so gung-ho and positive, and David's come here with a lot of his own money, he said he didn't expect me to give him a dime. I offered to help feed him and let him stay in my home, but as a PI and trying to stay neutral, he can't do that. He said, I don't expect you to do anything for me. You are the family member of a missing child, and I don't expect that. David and I have become very close. I talk to him on a regular basis, and I just feel like he brings a lot of hope to the case. Eaton states, a few weekends ago, the Lemhi County Sheriff's Office did work at the campground, and they have not announced anything significant that was found. So this is 4 years later, and they're still doing searches. You got to admire that. That's not to say that there wasn't anything. There might be processing time, but basically there's not a lot of new info. Have they told you anything? Are you still wondering like the rest of us? Clegg responds, yes. Absolutely, we're still wondering. We're still waiting for Lemhi County to do their job, and Penner and I talk quite a bit. He has just said, Trina, I need you to remember that I need you to be strong, and I need you to continue to be patient. I wait for the answers to come from him of what did you find? Is it anything? Is it related, etc.? That's where I have to remember to get my answers from is from him. He's the lead on it. I still lean on David. I still lean on Bonneville County. If I go away for the weekend, I tell them where I'm going to go so they will all know where I'm at. I want to make sure I can be there to support Jessica or Vernal or anyone when and if there is news that breaks. Eaton states, has your thought about what happened to DeOrr changed over the past year or 4 years? Clegg responds, honestly, I still have hope that he's still alive, but everyone keeps saying that at this point, he's probably not alive. I still want that 2.5-year-old boy brought back to us. I can't lose hope, but I'm losing hope he's still alive. Eaton states, every year when we've done interviews, you've said you just want to know what happened. If it was your daughter, it was her boyfriend, whoever, you just want to know. Clegg responds, I want closure. So, baby for baby DeOrr. If he isn't with us anymore, I would like him properly laid to rest. I would like to know not necessarily what happened, but I just want the closure of it. If we have him, we can get closure, but there's another chapter of this. I'm not ready for that chapter because this little boy didn't do anything to anybody. We loved his smile, and his laugh brought so much joy to us. There's nothing this little boy could have done to deserve anything that could have happened to him. If it does come out that somebody has to be prosecuted, the whole thought of having to sit in a courtroom and listen to what happened step by step is way more than I think we've been through in 4 years. Eaton states, we did a story with you at Eastern Idaho State Fair where your window was shattered. You had one on the back of your SUV, One Hope, One Dream, with a picture of DeOrr, and someone shattered it. Have the trolls, the haters, calmed down, or is it stirred up every time something new comes up? What? How messed up is that? And does that have to do with a guilty party, per se? If there is a guilty party that would have done that, I mean, that's really messed up. We see a lot of true crime cases where there are attacks on family members. I mean, very disturbing stuff. Clegg responds, it's always there. My husband gives me a heads up of what's starting and what's coming up. He can just see when things are starting to get bad. I still get nasty little Facebook messages. Eaton states, what do you want to say to those people? Because, you know, they're watching right now and they'll probably type a comment below. Clegg states, all I want to say is what I've said for so long. You can't judge. You can't do anything. And if you say something bad and you find out it has nothing to do with our family or my daughter or Vernal or me or even Isaac, you can't say anything. I've judged every one of them. I have pointed fingers at everyone. Everyone inside that circle and everyone outside that circle. I've pointed fingers at everyone in the Leadore area just thinking, do you have my grandson? But it doesn't make me a better person for having those feelings or pointing the fingers. I'd love to point the fingers, but it doesn't in the end make me a good person. I have to eat my words if I say it was you and it wasn't you. I have to eat my words at the end. I'm not ready to say anything. I just feel like I listen to Penner and I follow that. I just have to wait and be patient. Wow, this is a very interesting, impressive, and impartial statement from the grandmother here, because she's stating she's suspected everyone. She's pointed her finger at everyone at one point or another. How often do family members do that, or at least admit to doing that? I mean, that's quite interesting, is it not? Huh. Is she really just putting truth and justice above all, including relationships with family members? Eaton states how Jessica. Clegg responds, since David came into the case and David has approached her, Jessica has found a voice. She talks to David and she communicates well with him, and she has really been more open to listening to him and walking through many things. She's doing as good as can be expected. I know with the death of my dad and this anniversary and stuff, I know a lot of things are building up, but she's doing better right now than I think she's done in a while. Eaton asks, do you guys talk with Vernal anymore? Clegg states, I don't talk to him much myself. If I need to, I get a hold of his sister Tanisha. I do communicate with her, and I do communicate with her aunt. We still try to keep in communication. Eaton asks, how about Isaac? Have you talked with him? Clegg responds, I actually took David to Isaac's house. Isaac talked to me. He always has, and I just wanted him to know that my dad was sick and then wanted to introduce him to David. Eaton states, are there any misconceptions or rumors or anything you've seen that you want to clear up? Clegg responds, there's just always drama. I know when Penner was trying to go up and do the intensive search that there was so much drama going on. When I called to talk to him, you could just feel the tension because he was trying to get things set up to go up to Leadore, get the permitting done, but there was so much drama being caused that he was having to take care of the drama rather than focus on getting up there. That's hard for me because I want to call him every day, every hour, and ask what's going on, but that doesn't do anything for him because he knows that I want answers so bad. I hate to say it, but it's really not a priority for the public to know first. It's for the sheriff to know, and then the family to know, and then from there, the rest of everyone else to find out. There's no first priority on anyone else except the sheriff and the family, and then from there, we'll find out. Eaton responds, why do you think there's such a fascination with this? There's national media, online chats. I get asked about it at least every other day. There really is an intense fascination on this story. Clegg responds, I know it started on Facebook. We have so many connections with Facebook. I have a family that lives way out of state. I created some really great friends, one of them in Montana, and she did some really great things for me. It's just those people who truly believe there will be an answer, and they love baby DeOrr. He had that face, and he touched so many people in the beginning just because they could relate. They had a kid that age, his beautiful eyes, his laugh on some of the videos, and he just captured so many people. I've had a couple of people ask about whether we're going to do a memorial or anything, not after last year and all the social media drama and threats that came with it. All we did was walk the river and held signs for him. There were people that said the nastiest, filthiest things like we have no support anymore, and we're doing this memorial, and we should up in the campground. Well, I should be working and paying my bills. Do I want to be up in Leadore? Absolutely, but I can't today. So this is what I'm going to do in honor of my grandson. Because of those things, we're keeping it very private this year. We're not going to walk. We're not going to put ourselves out there to be beaten on and bashed anymore. I mean, is this... Are these people that are doing this, are they alleging that the entire family is responsible for covering up some kind of accident? I mean, is that what's warranting their response? They believe that and they think this is all a put on or a show or something? It's not like it's a celebration day, it's a mourning day. You wake up and you can just feel it crush your heart. Every minute of this week, you just start thinking about what we were doing today 4 years ago. It hurts you, and it's just like one of the worst days of your entire life. That phone call, the drive, there's no part of it you can sit and think of anything pleasant on that day. Everything has turned just 100% horrifying about that day. July 10th will just be a day that will haunt the rest of our lives. Okay, so that's the background there from the grandmother, some basic thoughts. So let's go into this write-up here on the Unresolved Mysteries subreddit, a great subreddit for true crime discussion. This was posted 2 years ago by Quirky Motor. Best of 2020 nominee post. Extensive summary regarding the disappearance of the DeOrr Kunz missing person case. 5 years ago, I guess this... Okay, 5 years ago in July 2015, a 2-year-old Idaho boy went missing while on a camping trip. Here is an extensive write-up in regards to disappearance. There is also a TLDR, a timeline, and a rundown of the characters for those who like to skim. I wanted to do this write-up for a few reasons. First, because I couldn't find a solid timeline for the case online, and second, because it seems like most evidence, in quotations, in this case is actually catchy headlines and snippets of information taken out of context. It drives me crazy that so many cases can be driven by how loved ones act when a family member goes missing, so I wanted to dive into the case more deeply and share my findings with the world. In reality, there's very little hard evidence in this case to point in any one direction. The characters: DeOrr Kunz Jr., 2 years old, disappeared on or around July 9th or 10th. Somewhere in Idaho. Wow, that's interesting phrasing there, because we do have information that it was from that specific campground. So this poster here is, I guess they're opening the door to the possibility that if we don't take on blind faith the words of the family members, is it possible there could have been an accident elsewhere and it was staged as some kind of wandering off at a campground? I mean, that's bizarre, but let's continue here. Vernal DeOrr Kunz Sr., DeOrr's biological father, Jessica Mitchell's fiance or boyfriend, claims he was camping with his son when his son disappeared, says he trusts Jessica 100%, believes DeOrr was abducted from the campsite, says he left him with Grandpa for 15 to 20 minutes. In that time, he disappeared. Law enforcement and P.I. Klein believe Vernal is not truthful. Jessica Mitchell, DeOrr's biological mother, claims she was camping with her son when her son disappeared, says she left him with Grandpa for 5 minutes. In that time, he disappears. Says she trusts Vernal and his story. Believes DeOrr wandered away and passed away in the mountains near the campsite. Law enforcement P.I. Klein and P.I. Vilt believe Jessica is not being truthful. Okay. Alright, we're definitely getting into Mindshock land here, because... Okay, so her story is slightly different, but she's insisting that she trusts Vernal and his story. She's also stating that she believes he passed away. Why would she believe that if the body has not been recovered? I mean, if he wandered away... I guess if he wandered away so far that he would have died. Is she stating that he just wandered so far outside of the search radius that he couldn't have survived on his own? And that if he did run into people, they would have definitely turned him into they would have notified law enforcement? Is that her belief? And I guess that's not that crazy, but I mean, the point here that she trusts Vernal, I mean, I have to bring up brain fingerprint scan technology. I just can't not do it. Because in cases like this, and all missing persons cases, I mean, people suspect the family, yeah, sure, whatever, but just to rule things out, every single person involved in the case needs to be brain fingerprint scanned. This technology is not like polygraphs. Polygraphs are inadmissible in court. Brain fingerprint scan has been admitted in court at least once, but it's not about that. The brain fingerprint scan technology simply analyzes brain waves to see if there's recognition of information. So it's completely irrelevant whether the subject is intending to be truthful or to deceive. It bypasses the intentions of the subject. So that's why it's so awesome technology. It's so accurate. I think the creator still has $100,000 or $150,000 reward for anybody who can beat it. I believe that reward has never been collected. This is used by the military and government agencies. That's how accurate this is. This is really the next level technology extended from the polygraph, but it's not like a polygraph at all. It doesn't matter if the person is nervous, not nervous, doesn't matter if they're intending to lie, deceive, or they intend to tell the truth. It simply analyzes the brain waves. So that's really, I mean, yes, we can continue this podcast. We can go through all the theories and upturn all the stones. But if you want to solve this case as quickly as possible, or at least rule out the family, they need to be brain fingerprint scanned. This is the scan that Stephen Avery subjected himself to in the Making a Murderer series. He had no knowledge, there was no recognition of the state's allegations against him regarding the murder of Teresa Hallback. So, I mean, I just had to say it because it just needs to be said. But let's continue here. Grandpa Bob Walton, Jessica Mitchell's grandfather. Bob Walton is old, 76, confused, and on oxygen. Jessica and Vernal claim the camping trip was his idea. Bob refuses to speculate on DeOrr's disappearance. In fact, usually laughs when asked about the case. He also claims he doesn't trust Isaac, and then in parentheses in this write-up here is, wait, why did you invite him then, Bob? Okay. He claims he was never asked to watch DeOrr that weekend. Bob also claims that DeOrr was alive on the trip. Bob died in 2019. Huh. Isaac Reinwand, slightly developmental disability, possibly not confirmed. Grandpa Bob's former neighbor and fishing buddy. He is the only camper that weekend who law enforcement says hasn't changed his story. Law enforcement has also asked him to not release any additional information to the press. Isaac believes that DeOrr wandered away and passed away someplace near the campsite. What does passed away mean? So it was an innocent accident. He tripped, fell, whatever, hit his head on a rock, something like that, and then it was covered up. So law enforcement is stating that Isaac Reinwand, Grandpa Bob Walton's buddy, who he says he doesn't trust, is the only one who has not changed his story. Make of that what you will. Statistically, that would lean to him being the only one who's telling the truth. But, again, that's just statistically, that doesn't mean that's what happened here. Private investigator Frank Vilt, hired PI, first PI hired by the family, retired U.S. Marshal, does not believe the family is telling the truth. Thinks it is possible the family gave away or sold DeOrr? Resigned from the investigation, citing his mistrust of the parents' stories. Wow, I wasn't expecting that one. So he's saying, so I guess he's believing here that DeOrr is alive and he was either given away or sold. Wow. And just through his frustration, he just flat out resigned. Okay. Private investigator Philip Klein, second PI hired by the family. Although we have to say that there were all those additional searches and possibly some kind of dog hit, in which case that would point to an accident, but Private investigator Philip Klein, second PI hired by the family, later fired by the family, has hours worth of video interview with the family on YouTube, believes the family killed DeOrr intentionally or neglectfully, and is not telling them the truth. Why would they intentionally kill him? This is crazy. Klein also makes a variety of accusations against the family to the media, and some digging into his background reveals that he does not have the best reputation. Okay, this is really weird, though, because, again, if the family is truly guilty, would they be hiring, like, a former U.S. Marshal PI? Wouldn't they want to find, like, the dumbest PI who's just going to do whatever they say if they pay him? I mean, again, I'm just trying to logically examine the motivations, unless, again, some of the family members don't know the truth, and if other family members were responsible for something, they wouldn't necessarily be in charge of some of these decisions, because it just says hired by the family. It doesn't say specifically which members of the family. But this is absolutely insane. We have one PI who thinks that DeOrr was sold. We have another PI who thinks that he was killed, possibly intentionally, either intentionally or neglectfully. But this PI apparently does not have a good reputation. Okay. Description of DeOrr: white male, born December 30th, 2012, 3 feet tall, 28 pounds. Clothing, jewelry description: camouflage print jacket, blue pajama pants, green and black checkered socks, brown cowboy boots with a lighter brown camouflage print. These cowboy boots were reportedly 2 to 3 sizes too big for DeOrr. I don't know what to make of that. Distinguishing characteristic: Caucasian male, blonde hair, brown eyes. He has a birthmark on the back of his neck. Background: DeOrr Kunz Jr. was born December 30th, 2012, to his mother, Jessica Mitchell, and his father, her boyfriend, Vernal DeOrr Kunz Sr. Vernal also goes by DeOrr, but for clarity, I will be referring to him as Vernal in this write-up. Neither Jessica nor Vernal have criminal records. Jessica does, however, have 2 children from a previous marriage that are in the custody of her ex-husband. According to an interview with Jessica on East Idaho News in 2019, this arrangement was voluntary on Jessica's part, and she still saw and sees her older children regularly. So this is not mandated by the court. She clarifies she never gave up her paternal rights, nor did she at any time lose custody of the children. Her ex-husband was simply the children's primary guardian. According to Jessica's family in their interview with East Idaho News 2019, the custody agreement was made so that the older children could have a more financially stable life. In the media, DeOrr's family often refer to DeOrr as Little DeOrr or Little Man. Bob Walton usually calls him the kid or that kid. Idaho Falls and the trip. For the first 6 months of 2015, Jessica had been working as a caretaker for her elderly grandfather, Bob Walton. Bob Walton, age 76, was in poor health and on oxygen at this time. According to Vernal, the family decided to go on a camping trip on Thursday, July 9th, 2015, after Vernal got off work at around 5 p.m. The other thing that's a little bit bothersome is the lack of clarity on whose idea this camping trip even was. And if you're going to stage something and cover something up if he was already dead or if an accident had already happened, would this guy the grandfather invite along his fishing buddy who he supposedly doesn't trust? I mean, that doesn't really make a lot of sense either. Unless this is on the fishing buddy, but okay, let's continue here. So wait, they randomly decide to go on a camping trip when Vernal gets off work at 5 p.m. July 9th, 2015. And how random is it? I mean, this is always a problem, because in cases, whenever something is out of the ordinary, that's usually a red flag. Because if they go camping every weekend or every other weekend or whatever, on holidays, regularly, then it's not that strange. But if they never go camping, and then all of a sudden they just randomly want to go camping. Now, again, that doesn't mean it has something to do with whatever happened, but you can't rule it out. I mean, that's clearly out of the ordinary for them, if that's the case. Sometime in the evening around 6 p.m., the family piled into their truck, picked up Grandpa Bob Walton in his SUV, which was hauling a trailer, and then picked up Grandpa's friend and former neighbor, Isaac Reinwand, who Jessica and Vernal had never met. Jessica's interview with P.I. Philip Klein, December 2015, revealed this information. Why did it take that long? Well, that's kind of weird. Isaac appears to be aged in his 30s. What? So this guy in his 70s, his fishing buddy's in his 30s. How common is that? According to an interview with East Idaho News, Isaac met Bob 5 years earlier when Bob hired Isaac to do some yard work. Okay, that makes slightly more sense. Isaac appears to have some developmental disabilities, most apparent slow processing speed. Many people have raised questions about this friendship. We will get more into detail regarding that later. The group drove in 2 vehicles for 116 miles. Wow, so this is an impromptu last-second trip? What? An over 100-mile trip randomly as soon as he gets home from work? Does anybody else find that a little strange? I know this is kind of weird. Okay, so the group drove in 2 vehicles for 116 miles north to Leadore, Idaho. Then they drove an additional 10 miles west to Timber Creek Campground. This campground is accessible only by a rocky dirt road, and an additional 8 to 9 miles usually takes about 45 to 60 minutes to navigate to the campground at night. The family said they pulled into the campground around dark. Well, that's not a good sign. Isaac's 2016 interview with East Idaho News revealed this information. Sunset in Leadore on that day is 9:20 p.m., so many sources have guessed that the time the family pulled in was about 9:30. Note, as the sunset is the only definitive time we have, the time the family left Idaho Falls is based on the time that they arrived at the campsite. So again, we have some unverified information, but okay. The drive. Along the way, the family claims to have stopped for diesel, stopped at the Silver Dollar restaurant in Leadore. In parentheses, it states that it was closed. So are they claiming to have stopped and eaten there, or simply stopped to try to eat there and it was closed? I mean, there's no clarification here on that. And finally stopped at the convenience store to pick up some groceries. This is from the Newsline 2016 interview with Jessica. It is important to note that no one outside the family saw DeOrr at any of these places. So no CCTV, no nothing. I mean, if this is the middle of nowhere, I guess it might not be that crazy that they don't have security cameras in Idaho, but none of the workers at these stores remember seeing DeOrr. Newsline 2016 interview with Jessica. And no video cameras were available at any of the places the family went to that day. Stated by Lemhi Sheriff Lynn Bowerman, August 2015. After stocking up, the family made the 8-mile trek to the campground, arriving around dark, and went to bed with Jessica, Vernal, and DeOrr sleeping in Grandpa Walton's truck, Isaac sleeping in a tent, and Grandpa Walton sleeping in the camper. Isaac's 2016 interview, East Idaho News. Wait a second. So why are they... How big is the camper? Why are they sleeping in the truck instead of the camper? Okay, that aside... Yes, I'm going to do it. I'm also going to bring up satellite technology. Now, it might be unclear to make out exact people. Again, I am not going to hallucinate or pretend I know the exact details of top secret government satellite surveillance programs. I do not. But they at least could possibly verify these vehicles went where they said they went at which particular time. They might be able to verify that. Again, I don't know if that has been done or has not been done, because officially, if this is national security, whatever, they're not going to release that for a missing persons case, but they could. I'm just saying, it seems like there are further avenues to pursue here. If one wanted to pull out all the stops for truth and justice at any cost, I mean, there's brain fingerprint scan technology, and there is satellite surveillance technology that theoretically, if went through the proper top secret channels, could be retrieved. Continuing on here, July 10th, the morning. According to the family, around 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. after the family had had breakfast, Jessica started her period and asked Vernal to return to town to pick up some supplies, including feminine products and groceries at the convenience store. Stage Stop Junction. Jessica's interview with the PI, Philip Klein, November 2015. Now, call me crazy. I am not a female. I am not a woman. I know that definition is a lot more lax these days. But wouldn't someone know that ahead of time before going on a camping trip? away from civilization to bring some kind of basic supplies? Call me crazy, I don't know. Vernal, unless something happened prior and it was very, very tragic and traumatic, and this was like some kind of last second thing, in which case one might not bring proper supplies. Or this whole story is made up. Vernal, Jessica, and presumably little DeOrr left and went to town. According to Vernal, this trip downhill took about 20 minutes. We will get back to that statement in the other things section below. Once in town, they stopped at the stage shop where Vernal asked the worker if they sold diesel. When the clerk said no, then they went to the diesel pump 2 doors down, but there was no diesel there, and then finally to Peterson Welding to finally get fuel for the truck, according to Jessica's interview with PI Philip Klein, November 2015. At this point, they returned to the convenience store to get snacks and feminine products before heading back to the campground. In one of Private Eye's Klein's interviews with Jessica, she explains that they went to the stage shop to get DeOrr Jr. some fries. French fries for the toddler? Okay, continuing on here. In the same interview, Jessica claims that this older man was sitting at the table in the store and was staring incessantly at her son. Wow. Okay, so let's say you are a parent that was responsible for the negligent death of your child. Would you make up stories about suspects that were seemingly interested in kidnapping your child? Just a question there. I'm not alleging anything is true or untrue. Or if that really is true, obviously you would expect her to report that. But is this the first time she is stating that? According to this here, there is a receipt that confirms that they were at the store and purchased things around this time. East Idaho News interview with Lemhi Sheriff Lynn Bowerman, August 2015. It is also important to note that no one on July 10th in Leadore can remember seeing DeOrr that day, despite the receipts that prove that Jessica and Vernal made purchases in town that day. East Idaho News interview with Lemhi Sheriff Lynn Bowerman, August 2015. So hold on a second. Did they see Jessica and Vernal? Because if they didn't, someone else could have made those purchases, right? But if they did, they just didn't see them with DeOrr. So I'm guessing could anybody verify about this older man sitting and staring incessantly at her son? Did the owner of the store, could they verify that there was an older guy there staring or not? So I'm guessing they never found the older guy, or did they? And he claimed that DeOrr was not with them. And would he claim that if he was the one who kidnapped their son? But again, just going through every single possible variable here. At 12:38 p.m., Jessica sends a text to her mom saying that they are leaving Leadore to return to the campground. Interview with Jessica's mother, Trina Clegg, 2015. If we assume, as Vernal claims, the trip only took 20 minutes in the daytime, the family was in the town of Leadore from about 11 a.m. at the earliest, or 11:40 a.m. at the latest, to 12:38 p.m. Later, Jessica worked with the sheriff's office to make a composite sketch of the man. More info of that in the other things section. Okay, hold on a second. So we have a lot of theories branching here, because the other thing is, I don't know these people. How many grandfathers would honestly take the side of their children over their grandchildren, particularly a toddler, if there was some kind of accident? Unless, of course, if it truly was an accident, he didn't want to have his kid prosecuted for the accidental death of the grand. I mean, I guess maybe there'd be some grandparents who would be complicit in some kind of cover-up, theoretically. Unless this is all on the up and up until a certain point. Because if this impromptu trip was legitimate and DeOrr really was perfectly fine for the beginning of the trip, and an accident happened later, then perhaps none of this up to that point is strange, and it only gets strange after a potential accident or wandering off of some kind. Okay, July 10th, after returning to the campsite. Once the family returned to the campsite at around 1 p.m. or 1:10 p.m., the timeline gets a little shakier. The adults decide to go fishing with Isaac in the creek that is only 50 feet away from the campsite, down a little hill. While you can hear the creek from the campsite, you cannot see it from the area that they were camped in. Isaac claims to see DeOrr around this time in between 1:10 and 1:30 p.m. at the campsite. Isaac's 2016 interview with East Idaho News. Wait a second. You cannot see it from the area they were camped, but Isaac claims to see DeOrr at the campsite. That's a little vague. So is Isaac lying here? Or is the campsite area being referred to vaguely where DeOrr might have been slightly... I mean, what are the exact vantage points? So are they saying here that Isaac is lying? Or possibly lying just to cover for himself? To make him not look negligent? Although, again, he's not the parent. There are several stories being told... Okay, hold on a second. Isaac claims to see DeOrr around this time between 1:10 and 1:30 p.m. at the campsite. According to Vernal, it was nearing DeOrr's nap time. At about 1:30 p.m., the adults, minus Grandpa Bob, leave to go fishing and leave DeOrr with his great-grandpa. Vernal and Jessica's early interview, July 13th, 2015, with East Idaho News. Now, another point here. Have they ever left him with Grandpa Bob here? Because if he's not in good health and on oxygen, is it safe to leave DeOrr with him? Because if DeOrr's running off, I mean, what are Grandpa Bob's capabilities here? His great-grandpa. I mean, I don't know. That's a valid question, is it not? There are several stories being told at this point, so I will try to summarize what happens next. In some interviews, the family says DeOrr should have been napping. It is unclear why no one put DeOrr to bed before the fishing trek. Vernal and Jessica's early interview, July 13, 2015, with East Idaho News. So he should have been napping, but nobody put him to bed. Interesting. According to Jessica, her grandpa said that DeOrr was playing in the dirt or playing with his shoe under a tree. Jessica herself says DeOrr was under the tree eating candy. She also claims that little DeOrr said that he wanted to stay with Grandpa and eat candy, not come with her and Vernal to the creek. This is Jessica's interview with PI Philip Klein, December 2015. I mean, also, like, we don't know their parenting style. Like, how often is the toddler allowed to call the shots on what he is doing? Particularly when safety is a factor. This is an important point, as Bob Walton says he doesn't remember being asked to watch DeOrr. He clarifies by saying it could have happened and he either forgot or he didn't hear. Bob Walton interview, Philip Klein, December 2015. Those are all great points, because a guy of his age with his health problems, he might not be lying, because if he doesn't remember or he's hard of hearing, I mean, that's a problem, because we really can't make anything of that information. Even a brain fingerprint scan might not be that effective with Bob Walton here. With everybody else, it should be, but again, he's so old at this point. But Bob claims DeOrr was alive and playing in the campsite at this time when his parents were prepping to go fishing. This is Bob Walton's interview with PI Philip Klein, December 2015. With that, Isaac, Vernal, and Jessica leave the area to go fishing in the creek. Jessica says she looked back at the camp to make sure DeOrr wasn't following them. Is it just me, or is that weird phrasing? Newsline interview with private investigator Peter Vilt. Wouldn't the phrasing more naturally be to make sure he was staying near his grandpa? Because that was the plan, or nearing his great-grandpa. But once at the creek, Isaac and the couple spread out over an area of about 150 feet, with Isaac being upstream and the couple being further downstream. Sheriff Bowerman, during a radio interview July 2015. Somewhere in between 2 p.m. and 2:20 p.m., the family realizes DeOrr is missing when the parents return to camp and realize DeOrr is not with Grandpa Bob Walton. Bob claims he looked away, and when he looked back, little DeOrr was gone. He assumed DeOrr had gone to the creek to find his parents. Bob Walton interview Philip Klein, December 2015. Okay, this is the major first red flag for me, like super major. Is it common for, like, so what's he thinking? So he's not physically capable of going down to the creek to check? Or does he think it's perfectly acceptable for this toddler to go wandering around looking for his parents at the creek and he's not able to, and he doesn't want to do anything about it? Or does he want to alert others? He's just not physically capable at his age and physical condition. I mean, this is major here. This is a huge major point here. Jessica says they were fishing for only 5 minutes, while Vernal says it was 15 to 20 minutes later when they returned to the camp. Vernal and Jessica's early interview, July 13, 2015, with East Idaho News. Jessica and Vernal searched the campsite and creek for about 20 minutes before calling 911. At 2:26 p.m. or 2:28, according to some sources, Jessica called 911. I mean, can't that be verified? I mean, I know it's only 2 minutes, but still, I mean, if it's an official 911 call, and was on the phone with dispatch for about 4 minutes. Meanwhile, Vernal gets in his truck, drives a half-mile down the road to get cell service, and places his own call to 911 at 2:22 p.m. Okay, I would need an explanation on why they're calling 911 separately. Because if there's no service, how is she calling? Because if she has no service, so he's going to go get service. Unless the service is spotty and she can't get service that second, so he goes to make the call. That would be an innocent explanation for 2 calls. So his own call at 2:22 p.m. On the 911 call, Vernal says that DeOrr has been missing about an hour. This is from Vernal and Jessica's early interview, July 13, 2015, East Idaho News. So I'm guessing the police have not released information about any of these discrepancies. Around this time, Isaac returns to the campsite and Grandpa Bob Walton informs him that little DeOrr is missing. This is from Isaac's 2016 interview with East Idaho News. Search and rescue teams arrive at the campsite around 3:45 or 4 p.m. This is from Vernal and Jessica's early interview, July 13th, 2015, with East Idaho News. So search and rescue teams are arriving, theoretically, according to this story here, within 2.5 hours. That's not too bad. If he simply wandered off, you would think they'd be able to find a little toddler who only had a 2-hour head start on him. Around this time, if that story is legitimate, of course. Around this time, after searchers had arrived, Jessica claims to see Isaac carrying a muddy shovel. She also claims that the shovel had blonde hair on top of it, but when Jessica tries to collect the hair, the wind blows it away. This story about the shovel is only mentioned by Jessica once in a more recent interview. It is not a factor verified in any way, shape, or form. This is Jessica's interview with PI Philip Klein, November 2015. So in November, she states this one time. So I guess it's possible law enforcement told her not to mention that detail, right? I mean, that's perfectly plausible for an innocent explanation there in the direction of Jessica. But regarding Isaac, I mean, what do they think happened here? Why would Isaac be carrying a muddy shovel with a blonde hair on it? Unless they're all being truthful and it wasn't a blonde hair, Jessica just thought it was because she's panicked because her toddler's missing, if we're looking at everything on face value, assuming nobody's lying. Soon, the small camp was crawling with volunteers who were looking for the boy, and law enforcement was already beginning to interview all 4 adults who were camping that weekend. By July 12th, over 200 people were at the campsite searching for DeOrr on foot, horseback, ATV, and helicopter. Later, drones and dogs were brought in to look for the little boy. No trace of him has ever been found, not a shoe, a scrap of clothing, or any of DeOrr's things. Okay, hold on a second. So, the only human search that first day, search and rescue teams, it does not state here whether they had dogs or ATV, horseback, helicopters that very first day. I would like clarification on that. Aftermath. The FBI and local authorities have worked together on this case for the last 5 years. Many interviews have been conducted with both parents, Bob Walton and Isaac Reinwand. I detail some of the information from those interviews below. In January 2016, the law enforcement named both of DeOrr's parents as suspects in their investigation. Law enforcement claims that both Jessica and Vernal failed lie detector tests repeatedly, and that both of their stories have changed and morphed over time. Interview with former Sheriff Lynn Bowerman, East Idaho News, 2016. Jessica's story has differed on 4 or 5 occasions. Bob Walton's story has also changed, and law enforcement believes he knows more about the disappearance than he is saying, although they concede Bob often seems confused or forgetful. Interview with Sheriff Lynn Bowerman, former Sheriff Lynn Bowerman, East Idaho News, 2016. The only person who law enforcement, both the county sheriff and FBI, believes is telling the truth, in part due to his consistent stories over the last 5 years, is Isaac Reinwand. Interview with former Sheriff Lynn Bowerman, East Idaho News, 2016. So the other wrinkle here that I do want, just to upturn every stone, is it possible Isaac Reinwand is this guy pretending to have some kind of mental disability, and he really, I don't know, he's maybe not a serial killer, but if he did kill the boy or accidentally hit him, whatever the case may be, or if the boy there would be traces of that, though, if he stumbled into the creek and then got buried. I mean, how could he have maybe he covered that up, the traces of it? But if he is a mastermind genius, then he could stay consistent. Now, I'm not saying that happened. I'm not saying it's likely in any way. I just want to address every theoretical possible theory here. Cadaver and tracking dogs have been brought to the site of the disappearance at different times, but the dogs' findings have either been dead ends or have been found to be related in some cremains which had been spread in the area by a local woman. What? This was a Reuters 2015 article. So these are not related to this case, so other cremains. The family has also hired 2 PIs over the years, both of whom have quit, citing inconsistent stories from the family of DeOrr. Both men continue to work the case on their own. More info on that below. That's curious. I mean, I wonder if it's ever been compiled, the list of all missing persons cases where all the private investigators have quit. Or a fair amount of private investigators have quit. Wow. I mean, this is a baffling case. I mean, another thing I want to touch upon, is it possible Jessica... Is it possible... So there's 2 other theories that can stem here where I can see if the parents are not responsible, but their stories are changing and they're lying. If Jessica and Vernal are involved in something else that's illegal or whatever, and there were other people there maybe, like really bad people, and they could never reveal that information, perhaps they're just panicked and their story changed because of that. Or is it possible there was some kind of kidnapping going on and they couldn't reveal information because of that, but then they called 911 anyway? So it's kind of, I mean, I'm not saying these are likely in any way. I'm just trying to go through the gauntlet of like every single possible explanation to where they are or are not responsible, but could still be lying about things. Okay, so the timeline recap here. July 9th, 5 p.m., Vernal gets off work. 6 p.m., family packs truck, leaves for the camping trip. 6 p.m.-ish, family picks up Bob Walton, Jessica's grandpa, and his friend Isaac. Somewhere between 6 p.m. and 8:30 p.m., Vernal stops for diesel. No one sees DeOrr. Around 8:30 p.m., caravan arrives at Leadore, tries to dine at the restaurant, but it's closed. No one sees DeOrr. Okay, so they weren't lying about actually dining there, because it was phrased weirdly earlier. Around 8:30 p.m., family gets snacks at the convenience store instead. No one sees DeOrr. Around dark, 9:30 p.m. approximately, family arrives at the campground, goes to bed. July 10th, 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m., Jessica asks Vernal to go to the store to pick up feminine products. 11 a.m. to 11:40 a.m., Vernal, Jessica, and presumably DeOrr arrive in Leadore. No one sees DeOrr. Arrival time until 12:30, Vernal, Jessica, and presumably DeOrr shop around in Leadore. No one sees DeOrr. 12:30 p.m. receipt shows Vernal and Jessica purchase things at the convenience store. No one sees DeOrr. 12:38 p.m., Jessica texts her mother to say they're leaving the store in Leadore. 1 to 1:10 p.m., arrival at the campsite. 1:30 p.m. is DeOrr's usual nap time. 1:30 p.m. to 2 p.m., Jessica, Isaac, and Vernal leave to go fishing at the creek. That actually makes a little bit more sense, because if he's supposed to be taking a nap and he's supposed to be down, I mean, theoretically, that would be the time for them to go fishing if they're leaving him with a responsible adult and a physically capable adult. 2 to 2:10 p.m., Vernal and Jessica realize DeOrr is missing. 2:22 p.m., Vernal's 911 call. 2:26 p.m., Jessica's 911 call. 2:28 p.m., Jessica's 911 call, according to Lemhi County Sheriff's Office. According to PI Philip Klein, it was 2:26, but okay. I don't know if the 2 minutes makes a difference, but 3:45 to 4 p.m., search and rescue arrive at the scene. So that's all that's stated there on July 10th. Well, actually, hold on, we have vague information here. Between the 10th and the 12th, it says search crews search for DeOrr on foot, helicopter, dogs, horses, ATVs, and drones. It does not state they were all used on the 10th. It states they were used between the 10th and the 12th. So it's unclear exactly what was used when on which day, unless they were all used on every day. But presumably, if they were used on the 10th, they should have, I'm assuming the drones and helicopters theoretically could have spotted him. I mean, how far can a toddler get, unless we're veering into missing 411 territory, which I am not alleging we are. September 15th, 2015, Frank Vilt tells the press he is trying to locate the creep in the Jeep. More information below. September 25th, 2015, Frank Vilt, private eye, resigns from the investigation, citing the family being less than truthful. January 25th, 2016, parents named as suspects by Lemhi County Sheriff's Office. March 1st, 2016, Klein claims Jessica told him, quote, "I know where the body is," end quote. Lemhi County Sheriff's Office does not think this is a credible lead. So are they saying that the Klein PI made that up, or what? July 15th, 2016, DeOrr's missing jacket found at the DeOrr's home. A jacket like the one DeOrr was apparently wearing the day of his disappearance is found in Jessica and Vernal's apartment. What does that mean, though? Because if nobody even saw him that day, I mean, it can't be verified what he was wearing. So, I mean, I don't know what, like, you can't really do anything with that information one way or the other. It's found at DeOrr's home? I mean, what does that mean? I mean, is anybody alleging they brought DeOrr back with them? That'd be kind of weird. So, and then they sold him later? Is that a possible theory? I don't know. November 13th, 2017, Philip Klein, PI, is fired by the Kunz family from the investigation. And would they fire him would Jessica fire him if she revealed to him that she knows where the body is? Wouldn't they want to keep him on payroll to make sure he doesn't leak that? Or what? Again, it doesn't say who's doing the hiring or the firing, so maybe not, depending on who it was. Interviews, weird statements and tidbits from various interviews. In the Klein interview, Bob Walton says 2 interesting things about Isaac. He claims that Isaac is only his friend because, quote, "if you get too old, you want someone to be there in case you keel over," end quote. He goes on to say he doesn't trust Isaac to stay in his house, not steal his money, or to watch kids. When asked at this point why he's friends with Isaac, Bob simply laughs. Bob laughs in response to many questions during his interviews and is a little odd. He also says things like, "That's what I hear," or "I guess so," in response to most questions. And how much of his mental state due to his physical condition is responsible for that? Vernal, in the same interview, mentions above that he trusts Jessica 100%, but also says, "That mother expletive killed my son," talking about Bob Walton. He seems to imply that Bob wasn't actually watching DeOrr like he should have been. So he's not stating that he actually murdered him, but I'm guessing that refers to negligence. In their first interview, Jessica and Vernal are together being interviewed by the press. Vernal repeatedly interrupts or cuts Jessica off in a really odd way, like he doesn't want her to talk. Vernal also spends most of the interview kissing up to investigators, and searchers, praising them for all the hard work they do every day. He spends approximately out of 14 minutes in the interview talking about this and the various search techniques he saw in the search helicopter. At the very end of the first interview, Jessica claims that a worker at the stage shop told her that on July 10th around 6 p.m., she saw an unkempt man at the store buying candy for a toddler he was with. The toddler, who was blonde, just like DeOrr, was apparently bawling and crying. The man was driving a black Jeep Rubicon, creating the story of the Jeep in the creep. Vernal and Jessica's early interview, July 13th, 2015, with East Idaho News. This story has never been verified. So she's not the one who saw the guy. She claims that a worker at the stage shop told her that at 6 p.m. she saw this man. September 2015, P.I. Vilt talks about trying to track down this creep in the Jeep and making a composite sketch, but nothing ever came of it. Also, how likely is it that a guy... Oh, so this was at 6 p.m. So there... Yeah, originally I'm thinking that this person was saying he was there before DeOrr's disappearance with another kid, in which case, what's the likelihood that he would try to abduct a second one? But it's actually after that. This is July 10th, 6 p.m. So the allegation here, if this is true, is that that was DeOrr himself. This lead was looked into as another family reported a man in a Jeep and matching the above description staring at their toddler son while they were hiking in Swan Valley, Idaho, near Idaho Falls. They reported the incident to the police, who connected it to DeOrr's case. Vilt resigned from the investigation only a few weeks later. Okay, hold on a second. Wait a second. So there was another family. So this is Swan Valley, Idaho. So this is not that close. So Swan Valley is over 150 miles southeast of the Timber Creek Campground and the Leadore area. So, I mean, not on the other side of the country or anything, but not super close, although, I mean, close enough to theoretically be related. So it's roughly 2-hour, 45-minute drive. Weird. So there is a police report to verify this other incident. Not, supposedly not the incident here in Leadore, but the incident in Swan Valley, Idaho, near Idaho Falls, of a guy who had the same Jeep staring at their toddler son while they were hiking. That is kind of weird. There's no date here on when that happened. But Vilt is resigning from the investigation only a few weeks after this. P.I. Vilt explains to Newsline in 2016 that he believes it is possible Jessica gave up DeOrr for adoption sometime during the trip, either with or without Vernal's knowledge. Okay, wow. While this seems like a far-fetched idea, Vilt is a retired U.S. Marshal and LA County deputy, so he does have professional experience in missing persons cases. Whoa. Okay, hold on a second here. So if she gave DeOrr up for adoption, so what, like illegal adoption? Like she just handed the toddler away without Vernal's knowledge? Did she do this at the campground? And that's why she doesn't want to blame Vernal, and she says she trusts him 100%? Also, again, I don't know any of these people, but if some of them might have mental issues, in which case their statements might not add up, even if there is no criminal investigation. This is baselining and controls that we have to keep in mind if we're being scientific and logical here. Because let's say a cupcake goes missing. Let's pick the most innocuous issue, or even not an innocuous issue. Let's say someone gets a gift at a particular time at a party. If certain people have mental issues, they might not give accurate depictions of timelines, like who came to the party, what time, what they were driving. There might be a whole bunch of changing stories. Again, if that's the baseline, when there is a highly stressful, traumatic situation, why would anybody expect anything to stay consistent there? So again, this is obviously very dependent on what kind of individuals these are. But that would be absolutely insane if Jessica gave DeOrr up for adoption in the middle of that camping trip. And is it possible Grandpa knew? Huh. And they staged that part of it, and maybe Isaac doesn't know anything about it. Huh. In Jessica's most recent interviews, she paints Isaac as a total creep who was rude to her and the family, making snarky comments about baby DeOrr, such as, "Why would you take a baby camping?" from the KTVB Special Report 2019. However, in her 2015-2016 interviews, she describes Isaac as a quiet guy who never spoke to her or Vernal on the trip. Huh. At some point, she also brings up the story of Isaac with the shovel and the hair. In one 2019 interview, she even claims that Isaac was drinking the whole time and not looking for DeOrr. If this is true, it isn't information I can find anywhere else. Okay. In Isaac's interview with the press, he seems confused and takes a while to answer, but the core parts of his story have stayed the same. Since 2016, Isaac says the authorities, FBI and Bonneville Sheriff's Department, have asked him to not release any additional information, although he gives short interviews occasionally. The two things Isaac is adamant about is, one, he doesn't know where DeOrr is at, and he doesn't know what happened. And two, he is positive that DeOrr was at the campsite on both July 19th and July 10th. Okay. Well, see, that's weird then, because it's like we have all these pieces that, like, none of these theories add up perfectly regarding who's lying, who's not lying, and who would be in the know regarding any kind of adoption situation or possible accident. So Isaac is adamant that DeOrr is, see, if we didn't have that piece of information, that we'd have things to rule out theoretically, because we're going through, it's almost like multiple choice. Like, if A is true, then 1A or 1B can't be true or could be true. But here we actually can't really rule anything in or out because of statements like that. So if he's complicit or not complicit, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of problems here. I could see why this case was requested to be covered on Mindshock. Now, this isn't any hard evidence, but if you watch early interview with all four adults, Isaac Reinwand comes across as the most believable of the group. This has been talked about extensively on Reddit. And it is odd to feel like the person telling the truth is the oddball friend of Grandpa and not DeOrr's three family members. The other thing, too, if, again, just spitballing here, if Jessica and Grandpa are in on something, and Vernal is not, but he has the utmost faith in Jessica, where he just, beyond reproach, then even if she's lying, if he refuses to believe it, and he might, I mean, who knows how that can manifest in inconsistent statements. Isaac claims that DeOrr was alive on both the days of the camping trip, but when pressed, he fails to provide details on what DeOrr was doing. He claims on July 9th he saw DeOrr in the child's seat and later saw DeOrr throwing things into the fire. Besides this, no detail is given. Okay, that's a little strange then, because he can't describe what he was doing, but he just remembers seeing him. I mean, if he's that uninterested in the baby, as a lot of men that age are, particularly if he has some kind of mental disabilities as well. If he's just completely disinterested in the child or anything the child is doing, or I mean, he's just not paying attention to him, but he clearly knows he's there from noise and just movement. Other clarifying things. This campsite is remote. This is not a campsite with bathrooms, showers, trails, hookups, parking lots, park rangers, etc. This is a campsite that does not even have a garbage service. It is only open a few months per year, weather permitting. The road to the campsite from Leadore, a town of fewer than 100 residents, is 8 miles of dirt and rocks, which is only passable in the summer months. There is one portable toilet and 2 spigots for portable water, which have water in the summer months. There is no parking lot, no ranger or ranger station, no paths or trails, and no amenities. It is practically a few fire pits and picnic tables in the wilderness. No other campers were in the area when DeOrr and his companions were camping. Huh. So this would be the perfect place to arrange some kind of illegal adoption or whatever, or to cover up some kind of crime. According to different websites, the drive time between Idaho Falls and Leadore takes in between 1 hour 45 minutes to 2 hours 30 minutes. Then remember there's an additional drive time to the campsite, about an hour. So total drive time is 2.5 hours to 3.5 hours. According to some local people on online forums like Web Sleuths, the drive from Leadore to Timber Creek Campground can take 20 minutes downhill if you have a good truck with high clearance in the summer months, but can also take as much as an hour when going uphill in the dark, especially if the weather is poor. Keep in mind, this area itself is also very remote. The nearest medical attention seems to be 47 miles away from Leadore, even farther from the campground in Salmon, Idaho. The entire Lemhi County has a population of under 8,000. According to Lemhi County Sheriff's Office, the man seen staring at DeOrr was later identified and cleared. Okay, wow. So that was not a made-up story. So the Sheriff's Office has stated here, I'm guessing this, so this is from East Idaho News interview with Steve Penner, Lemhi County Sheriff. Interesting. So I wonder how exactly he was cleared, because again, in a lot of cases, the true perpetrator was cleared by law enforcement early in the investigation. So I know a lot of so-called true crime aficionado, they take it as gospel, as if law enforcement can never make mistakes ever, as if criminals can never be smart enough to outsmart law enforcement. As soon as they hear cleared, that's gospel in their minds that can never be questioned, and then they veer off into wrong directions. Now again, I'm not saying whether that was a legitimate or illegitimate clearing. I'm just saying when something is unsolved, it's unsolved. But this is important because this shows us that this was not made up. I mean, that's a pretty good point in favor of the parents, though, that it was not made up. What are the chances statistically that there was some guy randomly staring at a toddler, some unkempt man? So this was not the man in the Jeep. This is just a random guy that was staring. I mean, again, there's not a lot of clarification here. Are there 2 alleged men? One, the guy in the Jeep who allegedly had a toddler who looked like DeOrr. And was this another random unkempt guy who was staring at DeOrr at a different time when they were in town? So if he was identified and cleared, I mean, how exactly was that done? But so much time had passed between DeOrr going missing, this man being located, he was unsure if he saw the family that day, let alone little DeOrr. But wait a second, so how could they have cleared him then? Did they basically just find the guy and talk to him and he simply said he doesn't remember? And that's how they cleared him? Because that's not clearing somebody. That's kind of weird. After they were named suspects in their son's disappearance, Jessica and Vernal broke up. He took a job as a truck driver out of state, and Jessica married someone new within the year. Okay, next question would be, whoever she married, how long did she know that guy? And did she sell off or give up DeOrr in order to start this new life? I mean, that doesn't make sense, though, because why not just, I mean, I don't know. They have never been charged with their son's disappearance. Jessica's mom was so shocked by the wedding that she didn't even attend the ceremony. Wow. What does everybody make of that? So, what does it usually take for a mother to not attend her own daughter's wedding ceremony? Wow, okay. However, she believes that her daughter is innocent in DeOrr's disappearance in this interview with Newsline Special 2019. Huh. So, Okay, I guess, is it possible she was just upset with her daughter for getting married that quickly? She doesn't think she has anything to do with DeOrr's disappearance, but she's just that upset with her for this rushed wedding, or maybe she doesn't like the husband. I guess there could be, yeah, there could be explanations there that have nothing to do with DeOrr's disappearance. Grandpa Bob Walton died of cancer aged 80 in 2019. If you watch the Missing 411 documentary on the case, it is mentioned that Isaac Reinwand has a criminal past. According to KSL.com, Isaac has one 2006 charge for domestic battery, a misdemeanor. This information is only available at KSL.com, an NBC affiliate out of Salt Lake City, Utah. Isaac is not a child molester convicted. It should have added convicted there. Isaac is not a convicted child molester, convicted sex offender, or felon like some online forums or discussions suggest. Obviously, domestic battery is not okay, but I just wanted everyone to know that it's not like some criminal mastermind was out in the wilderness with DeOrr Jr. that weekend. Although, if he was a criminal mastermind, he's gotten away with it if he was responsible. Law enforcement believes that DeOrr was alive for at least part of the camping trip. I want to know why they believe that as well. Because it says here they believe Isaac's testimony is credible. Is that the only reason? Do they have any other solid evidence to believe that he was alive for at least part of the camping trip? They do not believe DeOrr went missing before the trip ever took place, but claim they are looking at all possibilities. According to both Bob and Isaac, the camping trip was planned about a week in advance. It was not spontaneous. So, yeah, it is weird here because if Isaac is not involved here, why would he be going along with these lies? I mean, like what's going on here? P.I. Vilt, P.I. Klein, and Lemhi County Sheriff's Office all agree the most consistent story of the camping trip comes from Isaac Reinwand, Grandpa Bob Walton's friend. This is from the East Idaho News interview with Sheriff Lynn Bowerman, January 2016. They also say that despite this, Isaac lawyered up early in the investigation. Is this really just the criminal mastermind playing dumb? Sheriff Bowerman also says that all four adults have given numerous interviews and have taken several polygraphs each. No one has been overly uncooperative. East Idaho News interview with Sheriff Lynn Bowerman, January 2016. The lead investigator on DeOrr's case now, Sheriff Steve Penner, organizes searches for DeOrr every year. He tells Newsline in a 2016 interview that in remote areas of Idaho, he has done many searches for people which come up empty-handed, only for the bodies to be found several years later in a same small search area. It is easy to get lost in the Idaho wilderness. Oh, I don't like that quote at all. I don't like that at all. That's clearly missing 411 territory. Because some of these people, they turn up in exact spots that were searched. We're not talking about deep in the wilderness. In some of these missing 411 cases, it's right next to the main road. So clearly a spot that had been searched many times, and the body ends up there later. So I do not like that quote at all. That is an eerie quote. So there's searches year after year after year, but then the body just magically shows up one year. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Because he's stating here in the same small search area. He's not stating, as they expand the search and they turn up. I mean, he's saying in the same area that was searched. In 2016, P.I. Klein claimed to have found the clothes DeOrr was wearing at the time he went missing. This was a camo print jacket similar to the one DeOrr was described as wearing when he disappeared. He also claimed Jessica told him that she knows where DeOrr is. Jessica disputes this, and the Lemhi County Sheriff's Office doesn't take the lead seriously, as there is no proof Jessica ever said that. It is not in Klein's 10-hour-long interrogation of Jessica, so it's unclear when she said this to him. Both parents have revealed that, so it's not on tape anywhere. Both parents have revealed that the Sheriff's Department has offered them plea deals to reveal the body and testify against the other. Obviously, neither has taken the plea deal. Okay, wow. So is that common in these types of cases? Because I haven't seen the statistics on how often both parents are offered plea deals to reveal the body and testify against each other. So, wow. So let's say Jessica gave him up for adoption. Obviously, she couldn't take the plea deal because there is no dead body. And why would he take the plea deal? So there's clearly scenarios where they wouldn't take the plea deal, but if they were both complicit, I mean, the only reason not to take the plea deal is if they're both thinking, okay, they got nothing on either one of them, so why take the deal even if they're both guilty? So, yeah, I mean, that really doesn't tell us a lot either. P.I. Klein currently has several lawsuits filed against him and his firm for planting false evidence and in general being a fraud. But hold on a second here, because if he finds out the truth through illegal means, was he planting evidence against actual guilty parties that he knew for 100% were guilty? Because that's an important distinction there, because obviously cops do that also. You know, cops don't always plant evidence to frame a guy. Sometimes they plant evidence on a guy they know for sure is guilty. He likes the spotlight, but a tiny bit of digging into his background paints a picture of a scummy guy. I don't know how this write-up the person determined that. The only reason he's used in this write-up is the fact that there are 10 hours worth of videotape interviews on YouTube. These interviews have been helpful as they really get into detail with all 4 people who were at the campground. P.I. Vilt, is, on the other hand, is a retired LA County Sheriff's deputy and a retired U.S. Marshal Service fugitive hunter. Yes, that was his job. He has helped find 13 missing people in his time as a PI and seems generally credible and professional. So this guy's experienced. And he thinks Jessica gave up DeOrr for adoption, possibly without the knowledge of Vernal. Here are some of the questions I have thought about in this case. Why would anyone leave for a camping trip late in the evening only to travel 3 hours and hundreds of miles in the middle of nowhere with a guy you never met, a grandpa on oxygen, and a toddler? I mean, when you phrase it that way. Why did the family even go on the camping trip? Some sources say the trip was Bob's idea. He wanted to go camping in Leadore as he had camped there as a child. In Vernal's interview with Klein, Vernal says the trip was a celebration as Jessica had been able to hold down a job for 6 months. But her job was taking care of her own grandfather. Wow. Did Grandpa even want to go on the trip, or did they bring him because they had to? Oh, wow, that's a great question, because if her job is to take care of him, and there's no one else who can take care of him, they take him because they can't leave? I mean, wow. That's crazy. Why not camp someplace closer if Grandpa really did want to go camping fishing, especially since Jessica was on her period and they had a toddler with him? And someplace where medical attention could be nearby. I mean, this guy's on oxygen. This is kind of weird. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of camping spots there. So, yeah, that's a great question there. Why was Isaac invited last minute? Jessica and Vernal claimed they didn't know he was coming until Grandpa said they needed to stop and pick him up on the evening of July 9th. And what's the relationship there? Like, Grandpa's calling the shots? Is he saying he's not going to go with them unless they pick up this guy? Or did he want a witness? Did he suspect something? I mean, what's going on here? Did they suspect that they were going to kill him because he was kind of a burden? I mean, who knows what goes through the mind? I mean, again, we're talking about a really old guy here. I'm not saying there's any truth to any of his thoughts, but was he really thinking this? And he wanted maybe a witness or a young guy that could help him? Jessica and Vernal claimed they didn't know he was coming until Grandpa said they needed to stop and pick him up on the evening of July 9th. So on the way there, Grandpa's basically yelling at them, stop and pick this guy up right now. Did the guy even know he was going? I mean, what is going on here? Why was Grandpa friends with a cognitively disabled guy 40 years his junior? Well, again, even if he wasn't necessarily his friend, if he had done yard work for him, whatever, and he's like the only younger guy he knows, if he's looking for a witness or he's fearing for his own safety, it kind of makes sense that he might want this guy if he doesn't know anybody else. Why would you leave for a camping trip and forget feminine hygiene products and groceries? And if you did, why did you not stop to get these items before going to the campground to pick these things up? We know they stopped at the stage shop on the evening of July 9th. Why did they suddenly leave the campground in the morning to get diesel? Maybe this was just a code word for pads and tampons, but either way, it's weird. Why does no one in the entirety of the trip remember seeing DeOrr Jr.? There are only 80 people in Leadore, so it's not like DeOrr would be one face among hundreds. That's a good point. Why, if it was DeOrr's nap time like Vernal claimed, would Jessica and Vernal leave the campground and go fishing? Did they take fishing poles to the creek? Both of them or just one of them? That fact changes from interview to interview. If they thought Isaac was so weird, why did they ask him to show them the fishing holes so they could fish with him? Why did they fish for only 5 minutes before returning to camp? Did they expect something bad to happen? Okay, so here's just another thought here, too, though. Okay, with or without Vernal's knowledge, possibly with, if they're trying to get rid of DeOrr, was the whole plan to bring Grandpa and then blame Grandpa? When DeOrr, so they set this whole thing up at this remote campground for him to wander off when they actually had gotten rid of him earlier? Or did they just tell somebody to go pick him up, but would the Grandpa go along with that? Or is he so mentally out of it? I mean, they couldn't trust that he was that mentally out of it. So, I mean, I don't know. This is weird. Why did they fish for only 5 minutes before returning to camp? Did they expect something bad to happen? Well, that's a major question right there. Why were they fishing in a very small creek which reportedly has no fish? Interview with P.I. Klein and Sheriff Penner. Why did they leave a 2-year-old with an old man on oxygen in the middle of the wilderness? I mean, I've asked that before. Why did they return from the creek? Was it to put DeOrr to bed, to check on DeOrr, or to show DeOrr the fish in the creek? This changes from interview to interview. How long was DeOrr missing when the 911 calls were made? Was it an hour like Jessica claimed at first? Or was it 20 minutes like she claimed later? Was Isaac brought on the trip as a scapegoat? That's dark. Was Isaac brought to watch Grandpa so Jessica and Vernal didn't have to? Okay, I can see that. Was the camping trip really Grandpa's idea? He wasn't even well enough to get around, let alone fish, so it's always seemed odd to me. Was DeOrr ever alive on July 10th, 2015? Was DeOrr ever even at the campground at all? If not, what reason does Isaac have to lie? Is Isaac lying? Is Isaac simply confused? Did he see DeOrr once or twice and fill in the blanks? Is Isaac lying because he is scared? Is Grandpa lying? Did Grandpa forget to watch DeOrr? Did he fall asleep on the job, so to speak? Did Klein find the missing jacket, or did DeOrr simply have several camouflage jackets? I mean, there's no other friend or family member who can verify how many jackets this toddler had who had been at their house. I mean, it is kind of a weird question, but still. If Jessica and Vernal are responsible, why have neither of them taken a plea deal? I mean, I already addressed that. If DeOrr was alive, why did no one see him in Leadore? Theories. Here are all of the theories I have heard of for this case. Accidental or neglectful death at the campsite, lost and died in the wilderness, animal attack, intentional homicide, abduction, given away for adoption, or sold in Leadore. Wow, so if there was a specific connection in Leadore, possibly that old guy who was staring at the toddler, I mean, why would they admit that, though? Unless that was an intermediary third party and someone planned for him to be blamed because he would have given it off to 2 or 3 or 4 other parties by that point, so it would never lead to him. But I mean, that's still kind of risky. Unless he was, I mean, if he was paid good money. I mean, some people pay a lot of money for illegal adoption, so to speak. Huh. That's a curious one, but it would explain why they had to go that far out of the way specifically to Leadore, if there was a connection there. Foul play or accidental neglectful death before the camping trip, and there are probably plenty more. Red herring, in my opinion. The jacket, this proves nothing. Kids have multiple jackets. I agree with that specifically because we have no verification of what he was actually wearing, because we have to take, like, there's no CCTV, there's no nothing. It's just the family's word, so it means nothing. Jessica knows where the body is. Unverified. Law enforcement doesn't seem to care. I don't necessarily think that's a red herring. That's just a question mark. Obviously, there's nothing to pursue there until anything else materializes from there. Jessica and Vernal acting weird during interviews. Sure, they act weird, but how are you supposed to act when your child is missing? Again, if we can get their baselines, do they act weird in innocuous situations? If they do, okay, nothing to see here. But this is why baselines are important. So theoretically, it could mean something. Shovel story, unverified. Isaac's criminal past seems unrelated. Well, I'm not sure about that either, because if he's one of these criminal masterminds that's playing stupid, but yeah, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, because why would he do something to the toddler? They're fishing with him, then they go up and he's already missing, so he would have had to circle around back some way. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of weird. My conclusions: when I started researching this case, I truly believed the parents killed DeOrr on or before the trip. Now I am not so sure. Isaac's consistent story makes me think that DeOrr was probably at the campsite at some point for Isaac to have those memories. I think he at the least saw DeOrr on the 9th. I am not so certain that DeOrr was alive or around the campsite after the family returned from the store on the 10th. But of course I can't be sure. This is mostly due to the bizarre timeline for the whole trip. I think a neglectful or accidental death, hit him too hard, smothered him on accident, hit him with the truck, didn't watch him and he drowned, of DeOrr on the morning of July 10th, seems to make the most sense for the timeline and the bizarre trip into town. I think the other most likely scenario is that DeOrr wandered off and succumbed to the elements or a predator because no one was watching him closely. What do you think happened to little DeOrr? I mean, you would think even if he was attacked by an animal, wouldn't there be some kind of traces somewhere at some point? I mean, it's not like they didn't do extensive searches. An interesting comment here. Maybe Isaac's whole reason for being there was to be a scapegoat, which would mean DeOrr was meant to go missing on that trip. The whole case is just so bizarre. There are so many weird elements to it, and here we are 5 years later, and DeOrr is still missing, and this whole case is still the tangled web it was to begin with. This was posted 2 years ago. Another interesting post here. What if they used Isaac's developmental issues to trick him into believing DeOrr was on the trip when he wasn't? Did he actually see DeOrr, or did he see them doing things that convinced him DeOrr was there? Holding DeOrr, talking to DeOrr as if he were there. Maybe between his disabilities and other manipulation, he only thought he saw DeOrr and was convinced by the parents that DeOrr was there. Wow, this would be dark indeed if this is what happened. I mean, has this ever happened in any other case ever? The response here: this might actually be possible and would make sense of some of the inconsistencies. Isaac is telling the truth when he says he saw DeOrr, but what he actually saw was the parents lugging around a dead body, not a live child. I admit it sounds a little Weekend at Bernie's, but given Isaac's apparent developmental difficulties, fooling him might not have taken much effort. Maybe the parents dropped DeOrr's body out there somewhere, hoping a delay in finding him would conceal his time and manner of death. Maybe they're as surprised as anyone else that his body still hasn't been found. Wow. I mean, these are some dark theories being proposed by people discussing this case on the Unresolved Mysteries subreddit. Another response here: false memories are incredibly easy to implant even in very intelligent people. It's possible that Isaac is absolutely convinced he saw the child at the campsite, and as far as he knows, isn't lying. Polygraphs are bunk, but if he truly believes his memories, he technically isn't lying. Now, here's the thing. What is the intelligence level of Jessica and Vernal in order to even come up with a plot like this? To implant false memories. Because, I mean, that's clearly not the go-to of people looking to cover up some kind of giving up their child or cover up some kind of accidental death. I mean, that's not the go-to. And also, couldn't they do tests on Isaac to see how easy he would be tricked in, like, other situations? Here's another interesting post. Has anyone suggested they had alcohol on this trip? All drunk, something happens, they don't actually know where the kid is, all make up a story. Isaac keeps to the story out of fear because they may have bullied him into believing he was to blame and will go to prison. How close were they to the water? The response is that it was 50 feet away from a small creek, so very close to the creek. So if they're all completely wasted, would they not want to admit that? They're all wasted with an old grandpa on oxygen who may have fallen asleep. They convince Isaac to go along with their story, otherwise they both turn on him and blame him. Interesting. So they really don't know what happened to the kid. Huh. So is that why they failed all those polygraphs? Because they are lying and being deceptive, but not exactly about what exactly would happen. Another post here. I don't know if you saw the People magazine show that covered it and showed the video Isaac did with the private investigator. He was so nervous, had a bullet in his hand that he kept fidgeting with. I am totally convinced Vernal has threatened and scared this poor man to death that he is forced to lie. After watching all the lies of the parents going into town, saying all these people saw little DeOrr, and then when questioned they all said they never saw him, the parents out of their own negligence caused the death of this poor baby and are covering it up and threatening those with them to stay silent. But I also think after watching that show, the detectives said they are still working it even now and they will solve it. So that's kind of weird though, because did the parents really think there would be no investigation? Does this make sense to anybody? Like, why are you going to say all these town people saw DeOrr if they didn't see, do they think those people are never going to be questioned in the case of a missing child? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Now, a far darker theory, I don't even know if I want to go down this rabbit hole, but this is Mindshock, so we might as well go down it. Is it possible this community of Leadore, is it possible they had someone snatch him and he really was out and about and they really did see him, but they all lied about it because this community is involved in some kind of, this is a really dark theory. If we're going down human trafficking theories and if we're going down with law enforcement involvement, obviously they would point the finger at the parents and say they're suspects and they're guilty. Because how often do they flat out state suspects and not persons of interest? I mean, this is all really weird. This is Mindshock. I mean, I'm not going to discredit that for anybody who's unfamiliar with the work of former FBI head Ted Gunderson. He exposed a lot of law enforcement and political circle child trafficking, going up quite high into the ranks. A lot of coincidence theorists and authority-worshipping cultists, they never want to examine those theories, but unfortunately this is a world where criminals exist and they do prey on children. And, is there any other profession, so-called profession, other than politics, where where almost 100% of them are already criminals? So it's kind of weird how, all these authority-worshipping cultists and coincidence theorists hallucinate that politicians would never be involved in this. I mean, almost 100% of all politicians are criminals, so statistically, they'd be more likely to be involved than any other person of any other profession. So, again, whether they also have some law enforcement in their pocket, that's going down some really dark rabbit holes. But that's the only way I could think of it, because why would the parents say all these people saw him? How did they not know the police was going to verify? I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all. That doesn't make any sense. And if they're that dumb, how did they pull this off? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Another poster has some interesting thoughts here. Uncharted 4 posted this 2 years ago. This case has always seemed odd, but I think that it's two irresponsible people being negligent with their kid and an accident happened. I don't think the trip was for any special cover-up. I don't think it's weird to go camping. I've made sudden decisions to go places just because I want to do it. The grandfather was sick. He knew he was sick and possibly dying at that point. I know he died years later, but if he has terminal cancer, the impending doom could be weighing on him. He wanted to revisit a childhood memory and go see this place. Because he's sick, he needs her to go as the caregiver. I'm sure they took this as an opportunity to have Grandpa pay for everything and they get a trip out of it. I mean, do we have corroboration that he did in fact pay for this? Not really suspicious on him bringing Isaac along, as it's his friend. He probably didn't have many. Also, he knew Jessica and her boyfriend wouldn't be paying much attention to him, as they'd probably treat it as a getaway for them. So Isaac was company for the grandpa. I think it's pretty expletive they will leave a 2-year-old with a man who himself needs a caretaker to go fishing, though. Has anyone mentioned that? Why would anybody leave their kid in the care of an elderly person with medical issues in the middle of nowhere? Because they're completely irresponsible and negligent. Wasn't something mentioned that Isaac thought it was bad they brought the kid because of his crying? Maybe that had something to do with his disappearance. 2-year-olds can be tough times for the best of parents. I think something happened that first night or early morning to him. They may have hit him with the truck and he died. Then they had to cover it up. Something may have happened in the truck while they were sleeping. I don't think it was intentional, but the behavior after the fact is suspicious, and they can't keep their story straight. That drive into town was to probably hide the body away from the campsite. Whatever did happen, it's a tragedy for that little boy. Response here, I agree with your thoughts with one exception, being that I'm pretty sure that whatever happened to DeOrr was unintentional but caused by the grandpa. His weird replies, is that so? And laughing are things I have come across in people with Alzheimer's who are hiding it. They can't remember what happened, so they give strange non-committal answers. I strongly feel Grandpa accidentally killed DeOrr during that first night or early morning. I think the parents didn't want Grandpa to be in trouble with his medical history and tried to protect him. And again, to me, this would suggest accidental death rather than purposeful. I don't think they'd cover for Grandpa if it was intentional. Law enforcement feel neither parent is truthful, but it could be that they are only involved in the hiding of his body rather than the actual death. The trip into town was body disposal, and the fishing a setup so that Isaac could witness DeOrr going missing. Okay, wow, that's the best explanation I've seen so far regarding Isaac. Huh. Wow. That's actually, that might be one of the best theories so far. I mean, if there was an accident with the vehicle, though, with the truck, you would think law enforcement would find something on it. Someone mentioned that there was blood on the back bumper of the truck, and someone else posted that it was determined to be animal blood. Just some more conversation here in the comments. People are saying if he got carried off by a wild animal, the wild animal could have theoretically carried him quite a distance before eating him or whatever outside the distance of the search area. Also, another theory here is that if he died during the night, I mean, what was the temperature overnight? Or if he had some kind of medical episode and died, I mean, how would they react? Would they be afraid that they let him sleep in the truck instead of the camper? I mean, what's the situation there? And then they went into town to establish alibi, whatever. Other people are speculating because what's on Vernal's 911 call, because his call has never been released. And some people find that strange because Jessica's call was released. So is there something in Vernal's 911 call that for whatever reason can't be released? So that's all for now. I would like to get the opinion of all the Mindshock listeners out there. I don't know if I have enough here to form a McGuire theory. I mean, there's just a lot of missing information. And if the Mindshock listeners do want a follow-up episode on this, I can go over some of the body language and micro-expressions of all the interviews released. I mean, there's so many hours, but then again, this is Mindshock. I just, without looking at them, I don't know if there'd be enough there just from these other missing pieces. I mean, why release one 911 call and not the other? I mean, I would say that should be priority number one. And then just accounting. I mean, there's so much to account for and so many missing pieces. I mean, I think brain fingerprint scans would I mean, you'd have to do that on all these people that are still alive in order to get, I mean, that's probably the fastest way to solve this thing. Because you could at least rule things out. As of right now, it's kind of hard to rule anything out. Just because, I mean, all theories seem to have pieces missing, depending on who you believe is guilty. Either way. But hope everyone out there enjoyed another edition of Mindshock True Crime. If you want to help support the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Help us get more mind-shocking content out there and keep up awareness in unsolved cold cases, missing persons cases, wrongful convictions, and more. Just check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube for access to exclusive streams and chats. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast requests. You could also be a guest in the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.